Contra, to be against or opposed, or a right-wing Nicaraguan political group in the 1980s. Or, if you're a kid in the 80s and had no clue or care what that meant, to you, it meant a video game. Contra for the NES. The best way to describe this game in one word is amazing. I can play this game every day and not get sick of it. What's crazy? There really isn't a whole lot to do. You just shoot in the direction of the enemy, and as long as you line it up correctly, you can just keep moving. The hardest part of the whole game is knowing when to be on which platform and when. It's considered to be one of the harder games for the NES, but this is nothing compared to some others I've played. You can jump, drop, duck, drop down to lower platforms, and even swim. This is fantastic for something that was released in 1988. Well, for the console anyhow. The arcade version had already been out for about a year. But regardless, it's still a very well ported game. Of course I can't continue to talk about it without mentioning that it's Konami. I mean, the good guys game. Which means this little mind of mine is definitely about to shoot! Konami code, here we go. In this game, it gives you 30 lives. A lot of people refer to it as the Contra code, which basically means that this game probably has the most instances of the code being used on it. When you start the game, depending on if you're first or second controller, you'll either be the blue guy or the red guy. The blue guy's name is Bill, or Mad Dog. Or if you're basing off the cover art, it's Dutch from Predator. The red guy's name is Lance or Scorpion, or again, if you're basing off the cover art, it's John Rambo from, well, Rambo, First Blood. Contra has 8 different levels you play through, and it takes place in the year 2633. An organization called the Red Falcon is set up based on the Gulag Archipelago by New Zealand. The location doesn't actually exist, but it's still a fun 80s theme. It seems like the 80s were all about being in the military, from Top Gun to Platoon to Rambo to Alien to Predator. No Diddy. All of them were based about being in the military. The game follows right along with it. As a matter of fact, it's only been around for about a year. Aliens came out in 86, the first 2 Rambos are in 86 and 87, with the third coming March the following year. This game is perfectly timed and taken in with open arms. They still make Contra games after almost 40 years, and they're still awesome as ever. Contra was on the NES, SNES, Sega, N64, PlayStation, Xbox, it was everywhere. You can trickle any mage gamer with spouting out the intro to this game. There are several different power-ups or weapons that you can acquire while you're playing. Each of them do different benefit to the gameplay. R is the power-up to increase fire rate. M turns any weapon into an automatic. L is for laser, F is for thermobot, S is for spread shot or shotgun, B is like star power, invincibility for 20 seconds. Then there's the golden eagle. It will wipe every enemy on the screen. The game isn't super long, it only takes about an hour to play if you know what you're doing. Or if you're my dad, it takes 30 years. With 2 players that know how to play it, it can be done in about 40 minutes. My brother and I can knock it out in about 35 minutes, but that's also us having the code in. This game is one game that nobody will judge you for using the code. It's a pretty challenging game, even if you're a veteran at playing it. Another way to make this game a little easier to use is the turbo controller. We don't have the option, but since we have an emulator, we can really use whatever we want. For us, we use the Super Nintendo controller. It's a turbo controller, except a little out of its timeline. The way it works is you have your traditional A and B buttons, then you have your turbo A and B buttons. These are fantastic for games that don't have automatic shooting. Sometimes you just want to play without having to take a jump to the gym first. The turbo sticks don't do anything ridiculous really. They just allow the weapon to become automatic. Nothing broken about that at all. This game is so fun to play. It's like challenging, but at the same time it's pleasing. It's hard to describe the satisfaction you get from mowing waves of enemies down with assault weapons. Bosses are mostly machines, I think. After you've completed a level, you always come to a boss fight, where the boss seems to be a giant weaponized computer. There are a handful of these bosses, and they all differ slightly with their abilities and their patterns, but essentially just dodge and shoot the computer in its eyes. Some levels are in third-person mode, which is really cool for a console that was still figuring out how gaming even worked. I haven't noticed any glitches at all, but I think that's mostly due to the fact that we use a ROM file and not a cartridge. I know that a large chunk of glitches handed out at the time were due to a lack of connection between a cartridge and a console itself, so I may never get to experience those at all. The final level hit me with an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Aliens! What's rather crazy is that these aliens look rather familiar. You guessed it, those are xenomorphs! So it's not just a fan theory that these games are linked from the hit movies from the 80s. They literally take pieces of them and put them in the game. That makes this game so much cooler. The final boss is a little lackluster, though, I will say. I think it's supposed to be a heart, but it doesn't look too much like one. It looks more like a bladder or spleen. The level itself is a short, sweet, and to the point where it only takes a few minutes to get to, but there is a lot going on at once. You have to duck, dip, dodge, dive, and duck, all while shooting and moving. One last thing I want to talk about is the music. Every song slaps. It fits perfectly, and it plays this beautiful adrenaline-filled ambience. Just listen. 10 out of 10 for Contra. I would play this game over and over. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs way up.
Way to go once again, Konami.